Good afternoon, fellow patriots. This is Matt Shea, and welcome to Patriot Radio, broadcasting live from deep inside the heart of the future Liberty State. Sponsored once again by On Fire Ministries in the legacy of Dr. Stan Monteith, bringing you the story behind the story and the news behind the news, where it's not about right or left, it's about right and wrong. It's about our hope not being in man, but in Jesus Christ. About not ending in prayer, but moving to action. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Father, deliver us from the evil one.
Welcome to Patriot Radio.
Good afternoon, fellow patriots. It's me, Megan, Pastor Matt Shea, for yet again another Gen Z episode. And
you've got a look in your eye right now. I don't know what's about to happen.
This episode is going to be a nail biter for some of you. You're going to be on the edge of your seat thinking, where is she going with this? What side is she on? And I went down a rabbit hole these last few days after the assassination of Charlie Kirk, which I have not publicly been able to say anything about it yet, but I will say that I've been very affected by it. He was an inspiration for me and what I've been doing here on Patriot Radio. He was not a formally educated man, and he built what he had from the ground up, and it was just, he was an amazing man, and I looked up to him and everything that he did. So, in turn, I have been looking into this assassination and what's behind it, and what the people are saying. Now, this rabbit hole that I went down is going to sound concerning when I state it. The rabbit hole is that Israel is behind the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Now, another statement I need to make for everybody's clarity. I am pro-Israel, okay? I support Israel. That is the statement I would like to make. I do not necessarily believe these statements. What I am doing is reporting to Pastor Matt what the internet is exploding over right now, so that we can bring clarity to this situation, so we aren't sucked in by the mainstream narrative that is going around right now. But I will say what they are putting out there is quite convincing and will confuse people if they are not careful. So, I would like to start out with the fact that days and months before he was assassinated, Charlie Kirk was questioning and making statements about the Israeli government that people are now uncovering. That's not to mention the whole thing that Candace Owens just came out with about Israel being a huge reason as to why he was assassinated. So the biggest thing is that I have seen that Netanyahu offered Charlie Kirk $150 million to Turning Point USA to take his pro-Israel stance even farther, and he denied that money. He also was invited to Jerusalem by Netanyahu, and he denied that request. I have also seen that Charlie Kirk was starting to feel that Netanyahu was a bully and getting the United States entangled in foreign affairs, and he felt threatened by the fact that everyone was pressuring him to take this money from the Israeli government.
Okay. May I respond to that?
Yes, please.
All right. So, first of all, it's important to understand that anytime we're talking about major geopolitical events and shifts, there's always going to be a narrative battle and narrative exploitation. In fact, any professional team that works for a nation state and their intelligence apparatus will have what's called a narrative exploitation team. They'll have a sensitive area exploitation team. They'll have other teams that would be on the ground. So this is all part of what I would consider an intelligence operation from all sides right now. So we're operating in an environment where there is a battle now for narratives and ideas. But first and foremost, Charlie Kirk was a Christian, husband patriot. He was doing what God called him to do, defending the gospel.
Yep.
And he was shot on camera, live for everybody to see for that.
Yep.
So I'm sticking right with that for right now.
Yeah.
Also, in situations like this, it doesn't matter whether it's the war in Ukraine or whether it's a potential war with China. We are always, as Christians, for the Christians, okay, on the ground.
Amen.
We are for the Christians. Now, we will preach to everybody. We want to lift up everybody that's in the war zone, but we take the side of the Christians. So that's where we start. In fact, the scripture says to love the brotherhood, okay?
Yeah.
And it's talking about fellow Christians, brothers and sisters. So I start with that. The second thing is, in politics, there is a corruption process. And for those of us that have been involved in the political realm and the governmental sphere, and I taught this to people going in to recognize the corruption process, it was roughly this. They would corrupt people with food, and it was surprising. Over 80% of people were corrupted just at the food part. It was crazy.
With food?
Food, yeah. They would take them out to dinner.
Oh, okay.
And then they would have, that would start a relationship, and you would see corruption creep in right there. Second is money. Third is hobbies, like what you actually like to do. The fourth is sex. And the fifth is, if none of those work, they will smear you across all the major newspapers and then try to bring down your reputation and try to get you to quit.
You made it to number 5.
Yeah, I know. It was
Congratulations.
But we were, I'd been taught this, so when we got to number 5, it wasn't a surprise to me, right? But in this case, so Charlie Kirk was at number 2, right? So it doesn't matter if we're talking Israel, we're talking the United States, we're talking a bunch of other countries. This happens all the time.
Yep.
Where influencers are offered massive amounts of money to project a particular narrative. So Charlie Kirk, like he had done in the past with other attempts to corrupt him, said no, he didn't want to have any part of it. So that is in alignment with his character. Mm-hmm. It's in alignment with what I know about him. Mm-hmm. So what's in alignment with, I think, what a lot of other people know about him. So that doesn't surprise me at all, that if somebody tried to offer him a massive sum of money for a particular narrative, that he would say, no, he's for the truth. He's for preaching the gospel and doing what God's called him to do and being obedient to him being God alone.
Right.
Yep.
And something else about this narrative that I'm seeing, it's so inherently anti-Israel, anti-Jewish people. And something that I've been seeing is that it's a very, very dangerous narrative. Because these are the things that were being said about the Jews during the Holocaust. It is a very dangerous narrative. Now,
it's also intellectually lazy. Anytime. So, okay, how many globalists are Christians? I mean, or at least claim to be Christians, or how many globalists claim to be, Muslim, or how many? We don't get anywhere when we say all of them are this. Mm-hmm. Okay. Unless they actually admit to subscribing to that belief system, then okay, well then the label would fit. But what often happens is it's intellectually lazy, and it's easier to say, oh, all of them are this. Right. Instead of saying, well, wait a minute, there's corruption in every government on the earth right now, because there's corruption in humankind. We want to identify the people that are corrupt. We want to get them out of power. Right. Okay, we want to unelect them, or if they're bureaucrats, fire them, whatever it may be, and be intellectually precise. So as we continue this discussion, I think this is extremely important that we're intellectually precise in naming what is actually at the root of this, and not just saying, well, it's all Jewish people.
No,
it's clearly not.
Yeah.
That's clearly a lie, and actually, it's an active measure, which I'm going to hold there. We'll get into what that is later. Okay.
So the first video that I want to bring up is something that's been circulating. Of just so many people are commenting on it, asking, is this why they killed him? I believe it was aired October of 2023. Charlie Kirk is making a statement about Israel in Gaza on this podcast. Go ahead and play the clip.
I gotta be careful the way I say this. The Israeli government has a mandate they're gonna try to ethnically cleanse Gaza. I mean, I don't use that term lightly, okay? They're talking about basically removing 2.5 million people. But there are some serious questions here, Patrick. And let me tell you, my pattern recognition over the last 5 years has become pretty sharp. COVID, Maui fires, Epstein. When I see a story and it doesn't click, our guts are usually right.
Okay.
So that's one of the clips that's been circling around.
So he defined, and it's really critical here, he defined his terms of ethnically cleanse of removing, not killing,
right,
removing all of the Palestinians from Gaza.
Yep.
Fantastic. So historically, this has been the only effective way to deal with hijra or jihad by immigration into countries to take them over. And, if I may, I'm going to go down that history very quickly.
Yeah.
So the Islamic invaders came in the 700s, invaded Spain, went all the way up in Western Europe to the gates of Tours, France in 732 AD. There was a massive battle there with Charles the Hammer Martel, where Christianity made a few decisions. And this was a turning point at that time. Christianity decided that they would not let Muslim hordes come through Europe, raping, killing, and pillaging if they could do something about it, that this wasn't the judgment of God, that their job was to push back evil. And so at Tours, France, they stopped the Islamic Empire and they started to push it back. That was a 700-year campaign. And in fact, there was the Battle of Covadonga, which was in a cave in northern Spain, that the last remnant of the Spanish held out, and it started what's called the Reconquista to push the Islamic armies out of Spain. They were successful in defeating the final Moorish armies in Granada in 1492. Now, you've heard that year because that's the year that Christopher Columbus sailed. And Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand at that time commissioned him to go, and this is in his journals, why he went. It was not just to preach the gospel, although that was part of it. He actually was going to find an eastern way in to the Islamic Empire so they could defeat it for good. Now, they didn't at that time expel the Moors from Spain, but for 100 years, they caused huge problems in Spain, were involved in many conspiracies with the Ottoman Empire to overthrow the Spanish government. So in the 1600s, early 1600s, I think it was 1609, the Spanish said enough is enough, and they deported, okay, which is what we're now talking about Israel doing in Palestine.
Right.
They deported all of the Muslims from Spain across the Mediterranean to the Barbary coast. Their progeny became the Barbary pirates who the United States fought its first war against after the Revolution.
Yeah.
So there is a history here that we have to be cognizant of to give us some context on what is happening. The PLO, the Palestine Liberation Organization, which was headed by Yasser Arafat, was started by the KGB. Yasser Arafat was a KGB agent. So when they started this whole fiction of Palestine, that was intentional by the Soviets to come against the influence of the United States through Israel in the Middle East and to stop it. So now Israel's saying, we have tried to give peace a chance for all of these years. We have tried to remove all the settlers, which the Israelis did, remove all the settlers. And in turn, what happened is Hamas, the successor essentially to the PLO, although it's a little more complicated than that, Hamas then ends up attacking Israel and killing thousands of its citizens and taking a whole bunch hostage. So Israel is saying, we've had enough. We're deporting you. So the term ethnic cleansing is loaded because a lot of people have the idea that that means killing people. Charlie Kirk was clear in his definition that meant removing people, but that is what many countries have found as the only solution to stop jihad by immigration in countries in the world.
Yeah.
And so this is history. This isn't my opinion.
Right.
This is history. And now the Israelis have been very clear. We are going to remove the threat to Israel in Gaza. And by the way, this fulfills a scripture that Gaza will be laid waste in the Old Testament. So that's the context. And some people have now turned this into, well, Charlie Kirk must believe in some sort of a Jewish conspiracy. No, Charlie Kirk was trying to state what was going to happen.
Right.
And he didn't know October 7th was going to come.
I think that actually was after October.
Oh, that was
7th.
after? I thought that was 2023.
Didn't it happen in 2023?
So, yeah, I guess it would have been. So if it was right, it must have been right after?
It was at the end of October, I believe, was when it was time.
Okay, so he did it right after.
Yes.
So then he would have known at that time what the Israeli response was going to be, and that was accurate response, and that's ultimately what the discussion is today.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that there is some grand Jewish conspiracy to take over the world, because that's where the implication of what's going on the internet is.
Well, that's where this is all headed. And when we come back from the break, I will be discussing some more old tweets that have been circulating since Charlie Kirk's assassination.
What if I told you you could convert your 401k or your IRA into gold? While your retirement is being beat up by a volatile stock market and inflation, it could instead be resting safely in physical gold at a place of your own choosing, including your own business. Look, gold has increased 50% in just the last year. Stock market, it's been nothing but a roller coaster. So protect your retirement from market chaos by calling Verity Metals today.
And we are back from the break. Now, this next tweet that I'm going to bring up was tweeted by Charlie Kirk on 5. That's May. So, wow, I had to count.
So May of this year.
May 4th, 2025. And
Okay.
the caption from this person that posted his tweet says, "They killed him because he was starting to wake up. Tomorrow, the House will vote on H.R. 867, a bill that will criminalize private boycotts of Israel, fines of up to $1 million, and prison time up to 20 years. Bills like this only create more anti-Semitism and play into growing narratives that Israel is running the U.S. government. In America, you are allowed to hold differing views. You are allowed to disagree and protest. We've allowed far too many people who hate America to move here from abroad, but the right to speak freely is the birthright of all Americans. This bill should not pass. Any Republican that votes for this bill will expose themselves. We will be watching very closely." Now, what people are saying is that Charlie was waking up to this grand scheme that Israel has to take over the U.S. government, control the U.S. government, get them involved in their wars in which Israel doesn't help with any of ours. They never send their troops, but like we were discussing earlier, you were saying that Israel gives us intelligence, and so that mitigates the fact that they never send us troops. So what do you think about this tweet?
So, first of all, it looks like I just looked this bill up really quick to see if it had actually passed, and it does not look like that bill has passed. So, the idea that he is promoting is I think, a core idea of the United States of America, and that is that we should have freedom of speech, freedom of religion, that we should have the ability to petition our government for redress of grievances. We should have ability to peaceably assemble, and that there shouldn't be the establishment of a national church. Okay,
Right.
So, I mean, this is a kind of a core American belief. However, it is already American law that you cannot be the supporter of a terrorist organization.
Correct.
And it is already American law that you cannot be a communist and be on a visa to the United States of America, or have naturalized under false pretenses as an agent of a foreign terrorist organization or potentially terrorist organization, or a communist organization. So there is some interesting dialogue right now on the internet that I've heard, and I'm not trying to think of where you're going yet, but I want to kind of head this off at the pass a little bit, that just because the Trump administration says we're going to revoke visas for people that are celebrating Charlie Kirk's death.
I mean, I'm headed in that direction.
Okay. There already is a law in place that you cannot be a part of these organizations and be on a visa. And if you've lied about it, it's actually, when you fill out immigration paperwork, there's a huge list of questions regarding this. If you've lied about it,
Right.
then yeah. So you can't per se, because someone is promoting the death of Charlie Kirk, but if it is evidence that it is part of these organizations or these networks, then it's already U.S. law. So that has nothing to do with free speech as such. This has to do with controlling our borders and not allowing subversive organizations in the United States They want to overturn the Constitution, which they're actually abusing to try to subvert the United States. Now, talking about U.S. citizens, which is where Charlie is going with his comments on, I think it was H.R. 867. We have the right of free speech and to question things here in the United States.
Right.
And his concern is, or was, and I think all of our concern is now, that if you do that, then the next administration in power is going to now turn that on the right.
Yeah.
Okay? Or turn that on the constitutionalists and patriots in this country. And that's a valid question.
Right. And I think it was a valid concern. But where I'm taking this is, have you heard of Project Esther?
I have.
So this is another concern that people are bringing up. Project Esther from the Heritage Foundation. And I'm going to read from their website the executive summary, purpose, and introduction for you. So the purpose, named after the historic Jewish heroine who saved the Jews from genocide in ancient Persia, Project Esther provides a blueprint to counter anti-Semitism in the United States and ensure the security and prosperity of all Americans. Here's the introduction. Anti-Semitism in the United States of America is alive and spreading. Hamas's October 7th, 2023 terrorist attack on Israel laid bare existing anti-Semitism across the world, including the United States. The virulently, I don't know how to say that word.
Virulently.
Thank you. That word, anti-Israel and anti-Zionist and anti-American groups comprising the so-called pro-Palestinian movement inside the United States are exclusively pro-Palestine and more so pro-Hamas. They are part of a highly organized global Hamas support network, HSN, and therefore effectively a terrorist support network.
Okay, so let's stop right there. We're going back to current U.S. law that there is a terrorist organization that is having a network that is trying to subvert and overthrow the United States of America. Now, Hamas and the Muslim Brotherhood, okay, behind that, and it's not as easily as just a simple connection, but behind that, yes, they are trying to overthrow the United States of America.
Yeah, and it's interesting because a lot of people are saying that what this is, Project Esther, which is being implemented by the Trump administration, is just cancel culture flipped on its head for people who do not support Israel, which, as I'm reading from their website, that is not at all what it sounds like. It sounds like what they are doing is taking the pro-Hamas terrorist network within the United States and coming against it. That's what it sounds like directly from their website.
Okay, so here are some facts. Okay, the largest terror financing trial ever successfully prosecuted in U.S. history. It's called the Holy Land Foundation trial. It's out of Texas. In that trial, there was a list of unindicted co-conspirators. That list was upheld on appeal. And though that list was, these are supporting organizations, or these are organizations that are part of or members of the U.S. Muslim Brotherhood. Okay, that, for all of us to really understand the implication of that, if you designate the Muslim Brotherhood a foreign terrorist organization, then it implicates all of those other organizations as well. And that is what is being pushed right now in Congress. It is not canceling free speech or canceling a right. It is canceling organizations whose expressed and avowed purpose, according to their charter, according to their public statements, and according to their even self-proclaimed ideology regarding jihad, is to overthrow the United States of America, as is the communists.
Right.
So, yes, we should. Here's the moral clarity here. We should absolutely be canceling every single organization that seeks the overthrow of the United States of America and the overthrow of the U.S. Constitution. 100% unequivocal, absolutely, this is exactly the right thing to do. Now, when we come back from the break, we should probably talk about how the Soviets started modern anti-Semitism as an active measure so people aren't deceived in this time, in addition to the fact that some of the stuff that Israel killed Charlie Kirk actually started in Pakistan when we come back from the break.
What if I told you you could convert your 401k or your IRA into gold? While your retirement is being beat up by a volatile stock market and inflation, it could instead be resting safely in physical gold at a place of your own choosing, including your own business. Look, gold has increased 50% in just the last year. Stock market, it's been nothing but a roller coaster. So protect your retirement from market chaos by calling Verity Metals today.
We are back from the break talking about this theory that Israel sent a hit out on Charlie Kirk. Not to mention that people are making connections with JFK, saying that 5 months before he was killed, he was trying to keep Israel from going nuclear. We're not going to go there right at this very moment. But this next video that I have to show you was aired the day before that he was assassinated. He is talking to Ben Shapiro on his show about how Jews own the media. Go ahead and play the clip.
Pro-Israel outlets, and yet when it comes to the reporting, it seems to be sort of the opposite.
Ben,
so the
Ben,
perception, the legacy media is like owned by the Jews. And
I was going to say, Ben, come
pro-Israel.
on. You Jews own the media, Ben. So, I mean, come on. As you could tell by all the wonderful headlines you guys get.
Well, I mean, dude, the accusation that we own the media has not prevented, the Daily Wire from employing people who radically disagree with me on all of these matters. I mean, I don't agree with Matt Walsh on foreign policy. Matt obviously is a major host over at Daily Wire, and that's just my shop. And I'm overtly pro-Israel. Right? I mean, I'm not making any bones about this. I'm a Jew and I'm a Zionist. I'm not going to pretend that to say otherwise would be absolutely silly.
So what's interesting about this is he's saying that the Daily Wire has people that disagree with him. What's interesting about this? Candace Owens was conveniently fired from the Daily Wire after she changed her tune on Israel. And that's what people are honing in on, is the fact that Candace Owens changed her tune on Israel, and then she was conveniently fired from the Daily Wire. Wasn't a lot that came out about that, but that's the connection that people are making. And I thought it was interesting that Charlie Kirk said that Jews own the media. Then I've seen things where people are showing how many Jewish people are in CNN and Fox and all of these different media outlets. But like we've said before, blanket statements like that, we can't really say a lot about. But also, I feel like these clips might be being taken out of context because we're getting a very short snippet of what Charlie's actually saying here. And I feel like they might be using it to twist his beliefs.
Well, I mean, you can see he was very clearly being sarcastic because Ben Shapiro is Jewish. Okay, so very clearly he was saying that that's bogus. The idea that, the Jews own the media and some sort of conspiracy there. And I think it's really important right now to go right at the heart of this. So on the sermon on Sunday, I was talking about this, how to identify false light. One of the key ways and key points of discernment, how you identify false light, is see the origin. What is the origin of something? Go back to the beginning. So modern anti-Semitism, it has an origin.
Okay.
And it's called the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. It was a fraudulent document that served, and I'm reading off of Encyclopedia Britannica right now, it served as a pretext and rationale for anti-Semitism, mainly in the early 20th century. The document purported to be a report of a series of 24 meetings held in Basel, Switzerland in 1897 at the time of the First Zionist Congress. The Jews and Freemasons were said to have made plans to disrupt Christian civilization and erect a world state under their joint rule. Liberalism and socialism were to be the means of subverting Christendom. If subversion failed, all the capitals of Europe were to be sabotaged. The protocols were printed in Russia in abbreviated form in 1903 in the newspaper, which translated the Banner, and European languages, and soon it became classic anti-Semitic literature. So here's what's interesting.
So wait, the Jews?
This is what was purported in the Protocols of Elders of Zion. It was a fake
With
document.
the Freemasons. And didn't Hitler also say that he was fighting against the Freemasons and the Illuminati and the Jews?
And some of this was based on the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. Here's what happened. After World War II, KGB took this document, Protocols of the Elders of Zion, and they put it out in the Middle East as an intentional strategy to inflame the Middle East and inflame Muslim sentiment against the West. This was an intentional deception operation and what's called an active measure. And for those of you that don't know what an active measure is, it is essentially political warfare, but it is measures that are covert ways of influencing a population and shifting a population to a narrative that supports the country that is doing it.
Which really feels like what's happening here.
That is exactly what's happening here. So again, this is not hyperbole. This is fact. The highest ranking KGB defector to the United States of America was a guy by the name of General Mihai Pachipa. And General Pachipa wrote in his book, Disinformation. And I just pulled this up here. So page, people can check it later, 23 and 24. Said the chapter of the Soviet promulgation of the insidious protocols of the Elders of Zion conspiracy is an awakening. Here the persecutors of Christ's followers resurrected an old Jew-hating standby and spread it as gospel truth to the West. It wasn't just put in the Middle East. It was also put into the West. And it says this, indeed, the anti-Semitism documented in this book is shocking. The authors chronicle Yuri Andropov's anti-Zionism campaign, support of Islamic terrorism, and dual promotion of virulent anti-Semitism and anti-Americanism among Middle East Arabs. By 1978, I want everybody to listen to this, pay attention to this. Again, the highest ranking defector from the KGB to the United States of America. This is what he said. By 1978, the Soviet bloc planted some 4,000 agents of influence in the Islamic world, armed with hundreds of thousands of copies of the protocols of the Elders of Zion and military weapons. The seed they planted in the Arab world decades ago still sow hatred and destruction in the form of violence and terror. Atheistic communism sought out a handmaiden in radical Islam, with extremist Muslims exploited by Soviet manipulators who hope to besmirch Judaism and Israel and Christianity and America and the West, and too often with tragic success. Don't be the victim of manipulation of an active measure campaign that started in the former Soviet Union. This is, again, these are facts. This is the real deal. This is the authentic thing.
Yeah.
So when I hear this stuff today, it provokes a very strong reaction because this was intended to do what it's doing today, and that is to sow division, discord, and strife among the patriots in the United States of America, and we cannot fall for that. It is also sowing discord, strife, contention among the Christian community in the United States, and we can't let that happen either.
Well, it's so interesting. I have another thing to read for you. It says, Charlie Kirk refused a funding offer from Bibi Netanyahu in his final days. Charlie came to see Netanyahu as a bully who sought to drag America into foreign entanglements. Netanyahu just lied to the world and said they were friends. From the Gray Zone, a Trump insider and longtime friend of Charlie Kirk tells the Gray Zone how the assassinated conservative leader's turning point on Israeli influence provoked a private backlash from Netanyahu's allies that left him angry and afraid. The source said anxiety spread within the Trump administration after an apparent Israeli spying operation was uncovered. In the weeks leading up to September 10th assassination, Kirk had come to, I don't understand why they use this word, loathe the Israeli leader. Kirk was disgusted by what he witnessed inside the Trump administration, where Netanyahu sought to personally dictate the president's personal decisions and weaponized Israeli assets like billionaire donor Miriam Adelson to keep the White House firmly under its thumb. Oh, it says personnel decisions. My mistake. But the comments on this post are quite interesting because some people are saying, this is a spiritual awakening and, Israel is bad, while other people are saying you are lying. He absolutely loved Israel. He said they had the right to defend themselves, and he supported Netanyahu. Someone else said, I'm going to go with what the Bible says about Israel, no matter who is leading them. I'm going with Jesus. As far as I know, Charlie loved Jesus and everything Jesus loved. Charlie loved Israel. He spoke about it many times. His Savior, Jesus Christ, was from Israel. The Bible tells us to love Israel. And then people are trying to make this connection about the fact that Netanyahu knew 20 minutes after Charlie Kirk had been shot that he was dead. And they're saying, how did he know before the U.S. media? But we're not taking into consideration that he is a leader of a political nation. And do you not think that right after Charlie Kirk was dead, officially dead, before they actually released it to the public, that Trump knew before everyone else? Do you not think that those people knew before they actually released it to the public? Of course they knew. If you saw the video of him being taken to the car, and you know what... Yeah. I want to be kind with my words here, but if you have a semblance of knowledge on what it looks like when a person has passed on, it is very clear that by the time they're actually carrying him to the car, he is on the verge of passing away or is already passed away. So it's quite interesting to me that people are trying to connect Netanyahu knowing so quickly and making a statement so quickly when people really have no idea that political leaders know that things have happened before everyone else.
Yeah, look, I mean, if he didn't know before everyone else, he's got a problem in his own intelligence services.
Exactly.
Every world leader was briefed immediately on something like this because it was a huge geostrategic event.
I mean, people I knew were not taking people don't want to accept the truth when it's so horrible and it's so drastic. I was even in denial after I saw the video, but somewhere deep inside, I knew because I understand what it looks like and
the discernment of the Holy Spirit.
And it was horrific. But when we came out with a statement within our people and we said, Charlie has passed on, people pushed back.
They did. Yep.
And it's quite interesting to me.
And they were wrong.
They were wrong, and they were asking me what my sources were. Who is the source that you are citing? And I get it. We don't want to accept this truth, but sometimes.
Well, I think to be authentic, those people should actually come back and say, "I'm sorry."
Really?
Yeah, because I think they need to admit they were wrong, and they admit that they reacted in a way that was not productive or helpful.
Yeah.
I think that they need to acknowledge they were wrong, and I think this is the problem that we see today in society. You got people that do that kind of stuff, and then the people that are right, they will never come back and admit that they were wrong. They'll try to do it again and do it again and do it again. And at some point, being right actually matters on things like this, especially, right? And so there has to be an honesty and a transparency and an authenticity in, you know what? Yeah, I missed that one.
Yeah.
I think people respect that more. Yeah, I know I missed that one.
I think it's interesting. I feel like a lot of people overlook the fact, in my mind, what I thought was, do you guys know who I work with? Do you not know who I sit on a table with at least once a week and have people they're not putting those two things together.
I know. I don't think they do. And the point here is that people like Charlie Kirk were gifted. Everybody knew he was gifted for this. Some people are gifted to sift through patterns and these kind of things. How about we respect the giftings that God has put on certain people's lives and stop trying to question and do a war against anointing. Yeah.
What I also find interesting about this whole narrative with Israel and the assassination of Charlie Kirk is the first few days after he was assassinated, the narrative was clear. It was, we had the people who were celebrating his death and we had the people who were absolutely devastated by his death. And we were seeing this absolute surge in salvations and people getting Bibles and returning to Christ. And it was beautiful. And then we had people who were celebrating his death and it was evil, it was disgusting, it was angering. And now, a couple days after that, we have completely shifted. And now it's no longer focusing on the wonderful things that Charlie did and what he stood for. It's focusing on the fact that people think that Israel was behind this. But what I feel like maybe they're trying to distract us from a little bit is the gasoline that they have poured on the fire of young people standing up for the truth. And so they're trying to distract us and split us apart with this narrative that Israel is behind it.
It is classic disinformation to sow discord, strife, and contention. And there was so much moral clarity.
Right after we united.
Yeah, it united America. It was galvanizing America. So in this moment, this is really important discernment point as Christians, as leaders. In this moment, we need to be looking at the people who are sowing discord, causing strife, causing dissension, because those are the folks that are under the influence of people that want to destroy this country, whether they know it or not. And we have to identify who those people are right now, and we need to not listen to them because they are showing themselves for who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't understand the big picture, I call this, when we talk about trust, we actually teach about trust. This is conceptual incompetence. They can't see the big picture, how it relates to what's going on the ground.
Right.
And so therefore, they're falling into the trap of becoming tools of other nations and narrative platforms that are being put out by our foreign adversaries. I want to give a specific example really quick before we go to the break. Amir Sarfati put this out, but there's other people that have put this out as well. So it was very clear that there were two Pakistani accounts on social media that started the whole Israel did it narrative. And it's Adami Media was the first one, and the second one was Red Pill Media. And both of them, based in Pakistan, confirmed with IP address trace searches out of Pakistan. And one of them was saying, oh no, I'm born and raised in America. I refuse to die for Israel. Then it was proven that the account was in Pakistan. Where do you go with that? Red Pill Media, if they're based in Pakistan, then you have deception number one, if they're trying to lie and say they're in America. Yep. You have deception number two, that they're making this unsubstantiated claim up about Israel. And the next is all of the other media accounts that glommed onto this suddenly try to give it an imprimatur, a stamp of approval or authority to go forward. And this is how it works. One article starts it, and then the media just quote that one article, and go back. Even though there is no primary source documentation, there is nothing to truly link it, there's no true evidence. It is just a disinformation campaign, a fifth-generation warfare active measure that is intended to influence the American people, create division, strife, and contention here. The Soviet subversion stages that Yuri Bezmenov, who was another defector, he was a member of Izvestia, defected to Canada. The first stage of subversion was demoralization, taking the morals out of a society. The second was destabilization, undermining the traditional institutions. And the third stage was creating chaos and crisis. We are right in between stage 2 and 3 right now.
Right.
And we can see the people who are unwitting participants, some of them are intentional. And I think we need to call it out for what it is, call a spade a spade. When we come back from the break, more on this internet being abuzz with, did the Jews do it? And is this really a Jewish world conspiracy?
What if I told you could convert your 401k or your IRA into gold? While your retirement is being beat up by a volatile stock market and inflation, it could instead be resting safely in physical gold at a place of your own choosing, including your own business. Look, gold has increased 50% in just the last year. Stock market, it's been nothing but a roller coaster. So protect your retirement from market chaos by calling Verity Metals today.
And we are back from the break with this insane rabbit hole that I have taken a dive in these last few days. And we were just talking about media outlets taking the knowing or unknowing side of these narratives that people are trying to push. A huge one that I am seeing right now. Mm-hmm. A lot of people are talking about who's going to replace Charlie Kirk. And I think we all know nobody's ever going to replace Charlie Kirk.
100%.
Ever. He was one of a kind. No one can replace him. We can do our best to continue on his legacy, but there will never be another Charlie Kirk. However, people are calling for Nick Fuentes to be the new head of political conservative movement, i.e. the new Charlie Kirk, saying that Charlie Kirk was too nice and Nick Fuentes is the meaner version of Charlie Kirk. However, I honestly had no idea who this person was until Charlie Kirk was assassinated. I have listened to some of his things, and gee willikers, by golly, this man says some crazy things. He is clearly against the Jewish people. He speaks vehemently against them, against the government. He speaks against women and a whole bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
And he is pushing this narrative so desperately hard right now. Another person that is pushing this narrative very, very forcefully is Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson.
And Tucker Carlson just came out though and seemed to imply that Sharia law was okay. And I would love to ask him a question about that.
I am so confused. I'm going to be honest. I am very confused with supposedly Christian right-wing media influencers that are people that I looked up to, that were friends with Charlie Kirk, that I listened to. I mean, I stopped listening to Ben Shapiro a little while ago. You know, he was saying a lot of negative things about Jesus, and I wasn't.
Well, he was also wrong on the vaccine too. So,
and I wasn't for that. But Candace Owens is someone that I listen to a lot, and I'm really confused. I mean, I heard her say that she'd rather saw her left leg off than support Israel ever again. You know, and that's a crazy statement.
Well, so here's a general. This is something that. I teach, and I would love for other people to teach as well. When somebody says, hey, look here at the shiny object. Hey, look here at the shiny object. I'm never going to look at the shiny object. I'm going to look away from it. And Nick Fuentes is a distraction right now. You know, Charlie Kirk was very clear. He said, pursue Jesus, get married, have children, leave a legacy, pass down your values. That's amazing. Nick Fuentes, on the other hand, is
says
like
the exact opposite.
He said the exact opposite, especially on marriage. Now, people say, well, Nick says, Jesus is Lord or something like that. Well, you kind of have to have all of those things together to be scripturally consistent, right? The other piece is that there was a thwarted terror attack in Utah that seems to be going like unnoticed because of all this other buzz in the internet. Here's the shiny object. Here's what I'm paying attention to. Adib Nasir and Adil Justice Ahmed Nasir, both of Magna, Utah, were arrested Sunday on suspicion of placing an explosive device which failed to function underneath a Fox News van covering, wait for it, the assassination of Charlie Kirk.
So you're saying that this is what they're trying to distract you from. They're saying what they're trying to distract you from is the fact that Netanyahu just signed a, $45 million deal, $50 million deal with Google X and other ad platforms to deny the famine in Gaza. And there's ads rolling out on YouTube and all these platforms.
There is no famine in Gaza. Amir Tsarfati, first of all, in today's world, you cannot get away with this. That's why they got to keep repeating lies over and over again. There are pictures, time date stamped, out of Gaza where you had bakeries open, you had people going to restaurants, you had food in abundance.
So how do we know what's actually going on?
So you go to the primary sources. When I hear this kind of stuff and the United Nations coming out and condemning the famine in Gaza, you ask them, show me the proof. And you get a statement. No, actually show me the proof. Then they start showing these videos of people who are actually suffering from other diseases that they're claiming are malnourished. When that gets debunked, which it did get debunked, and Amir Tsarfati does a great job of going through and saying, this is debunked, this is AI generated, or here's the actual person, and here is the disease they were diagnosed with. Here's a picture of them like a year ago. Compare the two. They're clearly not dying of starvation, or they would have died months ago, right?
Right.
And debunking this, you've got to go to the primary sources, question those images. The distraction here is away from this, that there is a red-green axis, a communist jihadi axis that is working seamlessly at the ground level to destroy the United States, bring us to chaos and crisis in the United States of America. And here you have two men who seem to fit the green part of the axis. And then you have someone like Tyler Robinson, the alleged assassin, who seemed to fit the red part of the axis. I want to investigate that. I want to dive deeper into that. Is there a nation state that is operationalizing, or terror organizations, international terror organizations, operationalizing people in the United States to begin attacks against Christians, and this is just the beginning. That's what I want to know. That's where I think this distraction is.
This whole thing about Tyler Robinson, it all seems a little weird to me, the way he turned himself in. So his father has him talk to a priest, and they pray, and he decides to turn himself in, and then his dad gets this $1 million reward, and then it actually comes out that he actually turned himself in, but he didn't confess. How do you turn yourself in for a crime that you didn't confess to? And then it seems a little odd that he gets the $1 million. And I also saw a statement saying that he's going to give the money to Charlie Kirk's family. But I don't know what the truth is. What's hard in these situations is there's so many competing narratives.
There is.
There's so many people saying different things. And media outlets that you have grown to trust, like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens and Ben Shapiro, they are saying things now that go against stances that they held for such a long time. It becomes so confusing. Who do you trust?
So, I saw in the political sphere when people would go in, they would go in grounded. They go in with the right worldview. And then you watch the worldview change over time. Well, was the person wrong when they went in, or was the person wrong because they were corrupted over time? See, part of this is time proves character. And I preach that because you can evaluate over time and things will eventually become clear.
Right.
Also, and again, I'm going to continue to harp on this, we need to look at the primary source documents. So today, Utah authorities released a full text exchange between Tyler Robinson and his transgender lover, Lance Twiggs.
Wait, transgender...
I'm reading the quote from Gateway Pundit.
I know transgender which way, though?
I at this point, irrelevant. Here's what I want to read. Quote, I'm still okay, my love, but I'm stuck in Orem for a little while longer. Shouldn't be long until I can come home, but I got to grab my rifle still. To be honest, I had hoped to keep this secret till I died of old age. I'm sorry to involve you. Twiggs, you weren't the one who did it, right? Robinson, I'm sorry. Or I'm sorry. Twiggs, I thought they caught the person. Robinson, no, they grabbed some crazy old dude, then interrogated someone in similar clothing. I had planned to grab my rifle from my drop point shortly after, but most of that side of town got locked down. It's quiet, almost enough to get out, but there's one vehicle lingering. Why? Robinson, why did I do it? Twiggs, yeah. Robinson, yeah, enough of his hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated out. If I'm able to grab my rifle unseen, I will have left no evidence. Going to attempt to retrieve it again. Hopefully they have moved on. I haven't seen anything about them finding it. Twiggs, how long have you been planning this? Robinson, a bit over a week, I believe. I can get close to it, but there is a squad car parked right by it. I think they already swept that spot, but I don't want a chance. End quote. Here's why I read that. When I read that primary source document, things become crystal clear in my mind right now, okay? And they should become crystal clear in your mind. When I read primary source documents, I know by reading primary sources, by someone's own words, what happens.
Sick.
So this is key. As a Christian, I also want to know God's words on something.
Right.
So I go to the scripture, and Romans 11 says, Israel has not been rejected. I say then, God has not rejected his people.
Amen.
Has he?
Nope.
So all of this on the Christian side, so we now know on the political side that modern anti-Semitism was restarted by the KGB as a matter of fact. Now I know on the Christian side, okay, anyone who believes in what's called replacement theory, that Israel was somehow rejected by God and replaced by Christians, is not true according to the word of God. Quote again, I say then, God has not rejected his people. Has he? Far from it.
Amen.
Okay, so moral clarity right now on this issue is really critical. And you can have a lot of pundits say a lot of things out there, but the way to navigate this is Go straight to the primary sources, ask the questions, find out the origin of things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I know that something came out of Pakistan,
Right.
masquerading as something that's American,
Right.
obviously that's not authentic. And really, you dive down that at that level and that granularity, you will find the authentic truth. And that's ultimately what I believe Gen Z is looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that is the authentic truth is what Charlie Kirk gave his life for. And it's something that he would want us to do, is to educate ourselves on these statements. And I think that this is the shiny thing that they are waving in our face to create disunity within the right community and the Jesus community that just came together like I've never seen before after
Right.
his assassination. And they really thought that they would shut this voice down
Right.
by taking him out, and all they did was amplify it. All they did was take the fear out of it. Because I know even I was afraid to speak and say the truth and ask the right questions. But after this happened last week, I got to tell you, I'm not afraid anymore. And they can say what they want, but the truth is going to be spoken, at least by me, and by you, and by hundreds of millions of other people around the world now because of what happened to Charlie Kirk.
So what can you do? Speak the truth. The truth is worth everything, including our lives. And moral clarity on these issues comes from actually going to the source and not listening to what somebody says the source says.
Yeah.
Go to the actual source, read it, and the truth and the knowledge of the truth will set you free. John 8:32.
Thank you for bringing clarity to this for
Yeah.
everybody that's listening. Again, I don't believe these statements. I don't adhere to them.
Right.
But I just wanted to bring them up.
Well, we need to honestly address them because they are out there in force.
Yes.
Thank you to everybody for joining us today on Patriot Radio with Matt Shea and Megan Needham. Again, for the purpose of bringing light to Gen Z. God bless you guys and keep up the fight.